It all started with this idea of self. It really is about this. I mean, what happened these past few weeks, what happened these years, what happened really all this time is based on one thing. Friends. Trusting them and then not trusting them. Not me. Your other friends. Taking their word for it. And then blaming them. Saying, well, they shouldn't have told me that. Well, true. I agree with that. But the fact is, people will try to create a reputation for anybody. So if anybody tries to create a reputation of me when it's not true, and you don't have an idea of how you feel about that, and you take what they say about it, then it really is you. Because you didn't take your own stance on what you feel about that. You just took what somebody else said about me as the fact. Well, it must be true because I haven't made up my own thought on it. So what this person has told me about Marcello must be true. There can't be any other way. Like, for example, with, girlfriends of girls. Not girlfriends of girls, not lesbians, but just girlfriends of girls can be a bad influence and bad future for the girls at times, which is true. There can be bad stakes because they can give you advice that may not be true. In fact, they can make advice for you and just say it abruptly without really thinking about the person that they're talking about. Let's take, for example, anybody that has been introduced to me before, my friends, and what their friends think about me. What I say is, well, that's how your friend thinks about me. What about you? Is that how you think about me, frankly? And then that person doesn't say much. Meaning that they know me more, they're just telling you what the other person feels about you. So why would they spend the time to get to talk to me? Or, well, technically they don't talk to me because they don't care to know me at all. To me, that's a friendship that already hinged on death. Because not that they're hanging out with that kind of person, but that they're not telling that person, hey, you should get to know this person more. Get to know what kind of person they are. And they don't really. They just take what they can get offered from that person. That's all. That's how I know a lot of my friendships died, sadly. Sometimes because of my honesty. I mean, I may like certain people because of their honesty, whether they're celebrities or whatever. Look at Charlie Sheen, look at Marlon Brando. I could talk about those people forever, but to be honest, it's not because I want to be like them. It's because I learned from their personal lives, and I saw that they didn't take it in a bad way. They didn't take anything in a bad way that happened to them. Because of that, there is this, subconscious thought, it's funny that so many people who live in a bad environment or live in a bad lifestyle, it's always the other people that look at it badly. No one else in it ever says that. Now, I'm not saying that there might not be a good stake too at first, because maybe you put yourself in that position, or maybe somebody else put you in that position on purpose. That's why you got to be careful about who you choose to keep around. I'm accepting of a lot of people, but if there's a lot of negative energy when you're trying to connect to somebody, which a lot of people are afraid of that, you have a choice here, fear or love, and that's what it comes down to. Different kinds of love, of course, not just love, relationship love, but love friendships, love things like this. There's a lot. And if you don't accept that kind of love, then yeah, it's not a good idea to keep those friendships going. Because right there and then, you're now secluding the kind of friendship you want. You're saying that I don't want a connection with this person, I just want to hang out with him. Or them. Or guy, girl, guy, guy, girl, whatever, whoever wants to hang out as friends. Right there and then you're deciding, I don't want the scope of the friendship to be anymore. But a lot of times, that's what this, girlfriends at times can be a bad influence. Because, take for example, with listening to people. If you listen to your girlfriends about a guy or something, let's just say, you're already limiting the kind of listening skills you're going to have with that person, because you're listening to your friend tell you worse and worse about this person when they don't know him, when you know him more because you're hanging out with him. So if you know more about them and you're taking advice from somebody who knows less and says, I know people by their first impressions, supposedly, which if you don't connect to people, how are you supposed to? Whether it's spiritual, energy, whatever you want to call it, if you don't accept it or if you have fear of it, oh, that guy's too weird or that girl's too weird or something like that, then you're already limiting the kind of relationship and impression you could have. You're showing that you can't have a good impression of somebody because you're not accepting them. So why would somebody else believe that? That's why I think a lot of people can be a bad influence when they tell you about somebody going into reputation, because that's where the bad link is. Because they don't want to link to somebody like that in any way. I'm not even talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, or something like that, which a lot of people assume everybody falls for anybody. It's not true, because if that was true about me, I would have had sex already, done the whole thing, done the whole bit. Waiting until 25 to have my first kiss doesn't really prove any of that. But if somebody else wants to put me in that position and make me look bad, or make themselves look bad, whichever way you want to see it, you're now planting the seed of what you want in life. You're not really creating a new idea for yourself. You're saying, and that's where it goes back to the girlfriends thing. If a girlfriend says something about a girl's guy friend or whatever, you're already showing the limited scale you have, because you're saying this based on what? Based on not wanting to connect with that person even as a friendship. If you have that identity to it, whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. You're taking what is okay to be your own individual person and saying, no, you can't be. You got to be like me. I mean, that's fine, you know. He doesn't seem like he's a bad guy, though. You know, and that's what I'd say about anybody. And that's what I have said before. That doesn't seem that weird. I mean, literally, do you accept people as they are, or do you want them to change for you? Because, I mean, to me, personally, I'd rather somebody be who they are. You know, whether or not they fail or succeed in life isn't the point. That's how I sit here, but I know that a lot of people don't feel that way. I know a lot of people feel like, well, you have to be a success in life very young. You know, I mean, if you want that kind of success story, you know, where you have the 9-year-old painter who sold off his paintings and drawings and everything to buy his family a house, then you're going to have that. You know, you're going to have that. And you're going to have that impression. If you want that kind of thing dumped on you constantly, you're going to have that. You know, and you're going to wish that you didn't, because you're going to feel the kind of awkwardness that is felt in that. It's like, well, I wish I never accepted this, you know, but it's torture at that point, because it's like, you're basically saying, I want this kind of relationship, and then you don't. Like for me personally, and I say this with true honesty, that when I think about a relationship with somebody, I would never want them to look at my reputation. In their mind. Now, I'm not saying they can't look at my reputation at all, of course. Go back, go talk to everybody. I don't mind. Decide from that. But never decide because of somebody else what they think about me, what their impression is about me. You know, that's why a lot of people say, you know, I'd rather just have sex. I don't want emotions in a relationship. Well, that's fine. You know, go ahead. But don't beef up it where I have to feel the same way too. True. If you don't want to connect to people, that's your deal. You know, if you're so angered because you can't too, that's not anybody else's fault. You don't want to open up. And you open up to the wrong person that didn't connect with you, that didn't want to open up themselves. So if you're going to blame somebody else that wants to open up and say, oh, I wish they didn't now, you know, you really lost the opportunity to be open then. You took what the old person did to you and said, well, you know, I thought he was going to be with me forever, or she was going to be with me forever. And now you're going to push it on somebody else? You know, that's like a bad car crash, you know. It doesn't make much sense. It's like saying that, oh, well, you know, now I'm going to think about my old one when I'm with you. You know, and that's where, like I said, it comes back to this, reputation and the style at which you believe somebody. If you believe your friends and say, oh, well, you know, my friends wouldn't lie to me, it doesn't necessarily mean they're lying. But if they don't accept the person as they are, then how can they be telling the truth about that person? They're telling the truth as they see it. You know, like with me, I don't think I'm all God with everything that I believe. I think I'm just me with everything I believe, you know. I think the only thing that I have an impression on that I wouldn't do myself is bullying and revenge. That's why a lot of people hold on to their stuff and use it for bullying or revenge. And that's why, you know, I'm sure a lot of people who like love and the idea of love and emotions and everything always bring up fate and like, oh, it has to be fate. But then again, why not look at it for its true sincerity of seeing what other people do? Like for me personally, I don't think I'm going to end up with somebody because of fate. I think I'm going to end up with somebody if they like my emotions, feelings, sensitivities in one direction. Because see, that's the thing. As long as it doesn't get boring to them. I'm sorry, I have to say it. You know, emotions get pretty boring to a lot of people. That's why I'm pretty much alone right now, because I know that it's so boring for a lot of people. I'm just waiting for the right girl that doesn't feel that way about it. Like, doesn't feel that it's boring. You know, and this has nothing to do with, you know, being hurt in your past from past boyfriends or past girlfriends, whatever you are. Because sometimes lesbians are in the wrong place too. Sometimes anybody can be in the wrong place of what kind of relationship they want, the orientation they're in, stuff like that. They all flip and flop. Like me, I don't flip and flop. And that's why I'm going to be alone for a while, because I actually know what I want. And a lot of people don't like that. Oh no, he's too sincere. He's too sincere. It's a bad quality to be sincere, of course. Because then you can't go through all the emotions somebody who isn't sincere and who doesn't know where they're going is. But see, that's the thing. Not everybody has to be the same to be together. That's true. Like, for me personally, though, if you can accept that somebody else is different from you, about their thought on emotions, feelings, sensitivities, relationships, everything you could think of on any scale, then they're not the right person for you. If you can accept that. If you can accept that and look at it like, well, this is a relationship that we're building together, then maybe you have a better idea. If you're looking for that idea of like, I'm looking for somebody who knows how to stand up. I know how to stand up with my feet. With my legs, right here. Here, I'm standing up. There. If you want something more from me, you have to give me more reason than just, I want to see you do it. I'm not going to just do it just because you tell me. I want to be with somebody because I want to, not because they need me. That's the two different things, and that's what you're talking about. This idea of like fate and stuff. Well, fate is just around us. In any square inch, I can't tell you how to act if there is fate. I couldn't. Whether or not there is, I don't care. It's not going to make an influence on my life unless somebody's going to stay with me. I want to. Not because they need to, because they actually want to be with Marcello Gignoli. That's it. There can't be any crossing lines of, well, I feel kind of insecure and awkward. Yeah, you can feel insecure and awkward, but don't just walk away from me and go to your exes or go to somebody else because you're insecure and awkward. If you're insecure and awkward, you gotta talk. You got to. See, I'm a person who talks. But I listen too a lot. I listen more than I'm supposed to at times and learn a lot more about a person. That's why I'm here right now, because I'm learning a lot more. But see, that's the thing. I'm the last grain of sand with nothing. Because a lot of people will tell me, well, a lot of people like you, so you'll find the right girl. But see, that's the thing. If everybody likes me and nobody accepts me and nobody wants to be with me in that way, oh, everyone likes you, he doesn't need to be with somebody, because everyone likes him. But that's the thing. No matter how much people like me, there are going to be people who don't like me too. And there are people who don't like me. Duh. That's why I don't have many friends right now, because I can see that. And that's not a lie when I say that, There are a lot of people who don't like me at all. From my past and from my present right now that I know they don't like me. One girl doesn't like me because I didn't go with her, but she was shouting at me in front of customers at McDonald's before. I'm not going to go with a girl who starts shouting at me. That's stupid. I'm not going to shout at you. I never did. But if you can't see that I want something serious, then I'm not the right guy for you. I'm sorry. And I said that to her. And she hated that. She said, well, I don't like emotions. Then you shouldn't really be with me, and you shouldn't even be thinking about me in that way, because you already knew that I like emotions, and I have emotions of an open mind. Which means I'm ready to give them to somebody, but if you're telling me to just change for you, bye. Well, you got to accept that I'm been hurt before. I said, yeah, I do accept that. But for you to tell me I have to change because you've been hurt before isn't a good relationship. Because you're telling me, based on what you experienced, you have to change. I never told you that. I just tell you to accept that I like emotions. I've always have. I accepted that when I was 7. When I saw how many people were bullying and revenge and going for things with these emotional cycles of nothing. Because, to be honest, and I don't say this with pure vengeance or anything, but damn. When you see those people get what they want, they don't like what they want. They don't want it anymore. Because they fought so much for it that when they get it, well, what can I do now? And there you go, And that's why with me personally, that's why I know it's going to take a while, because a lot of people, like what's being said, about fate and stuff. I don't really believe in fate in that way, in the direction of what most people would think when I talk about fate, what it means. I don't really believe in it in that way. I believe more in my emotions, feelings, and sensitivities, which are on the inside and out. They aren't just energy or spiritual stuff. They're something around us constantly that we act. And it has nothing to do with fate or, well, it might have to do with challenge. If we go with somebody for a challenge, that's it. We made our decision, if we go for that. If we don't, good. I honestly feel like with my emotions, I always directed them. No convenience. I didn't do it for convenience. I'll definitely say that. But there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be not kind of mistakes where it's like that the whole thing is a mistake, but the kind of way that I act or the kind of things that I would do, meaning that I may not think about everything ahead of time. But that's a different kind of mistake. That's the kind of mistake that doesn't take away from the relationship. It only takes away from me. That's it. It takes away from my thought, my process. That's it. Outside of that, it won't take anything out of me. But that's where a lot of other people will make their decision. Like, oh, well, I saw the kind of guy he is, so I'm going to think of him in the same way you did. And that goes back to, believing girlfriends more than about somebody else. That's why a lot of people end up not having many friends in the future, because they think about what the other person thinks of them, what their friends think of that person. And then they base it off of them and say, well, he must be right then. When they're completely wrong, and they don't really want to take notice of how they personally feel rather than what their friends say. They let their friends mystify them with their intelligence, supposedly. Their first impression intelligence, which I hear a lot of, But if you don't want to be connected to somebody, or not accept somebody, and just be in fear, then how exactly can you know about that person? That goes back to the war on terror, everything that's been happening for the last 10, 15 years. We believe things based on a shadow. We believe things based on a shadow. On a shadow that actually we created. On a shadow that we funded. So, if we're going to create the image, who says we're still not helping? That's what it really comes down to. Who says we're still not helping create that kind of thought about about any kind of person who's different? Or whatever, whatever you want to say. If you don't accept difference, you're going to be the one in the hole at a certain point, because the one thing is, the less you accept difference, the more you're going to be different. Because at one point in your life, and that's going to be a big point, you're going to lose everybody, because you held on to them so much that you're going to be down in a hole at a certain point. You're going to be like, shit. You're going to feel the backdraft of everything. It's not about karma, really, although that's a good way of looking at karma, because it really is that. It's that idea of you're basically being frugal about your own attempt to think about somebody on your own. And you're saying that somebody else can do it better. Well, how can they do it better? You're the one with your own mind, If you don't think you have that choice, then maybe you shouldn't be talking to that person at all, because you're making no attempt to try to see and visualize the kind of person they are on your own. You're trying to say, well, it's based on what this other person has said about him, and then that's the truth. And if you think of it that way, then that's how you're gonna, that's how you would answer if somebody ever asked you, like, why'd you do that to that person? Well, my friend told me to. Or my friend said this. I have faith in my friend, so I have that trust. Well, that's good, you have that trust, but the thing is, did you ever make your own impression about that person at first? And then they say, well, no, I didn't. Or they say, well, I did, but it was kind of too late. And they didn't really forgive me. Well, it's not really about forgiving them at that point. It's about you. If you didn't say anything about what you did, then what does it matter that he forgave you or not? Or what does it matter that he acted that way? You made your answer known by the way you acted, by what you had said. So, and by the way you acted after that effect what you did. So if your action doesn't influence anything, then why'd you do it? I wanted to see what would happen. Well, you saw what happened. You shouldn't be hurt by something that you wanted to see happen. You obviously didn't want that person in your life that much, and yet now you're saying they should have known better? How could they have known better? You didn't tell them. You weren't direct about it. Well, they should know what kind of person I am. They should. Have they ever experienced that from you before? No. So how should they know better? Again, no answer. And that's where this whole thing about, girlfriends having a big influence on girls. I'm not even saying just on girls. This is a bigger story than most people would anticipate, because, literally, it's not only in same-sex relationships or opposite-sex relationships that this happens in. This happens in both of the types, that are being said right here. And a lot of my friends know it, A lot of my personal friends who I've talked to about it, they know it too, And with me personally, it's like, if I never became a controlling person or controlled person when I'm 25 or 26 now, why would I start now? And that's one of my friends recently said that's true. It's like, it has nothing to do. I'm not going to pick somebody based on their physical attributes. I'm going to base on their attributes of what they want in their relationship. And if they want that in the relationship, bye-bye. Literally, they're not going to stop. And you could see that. That's what happened many times with a few of my friends too, is that they wanted that kind of control. And the thing is, bye, you don't need me in your life then. You need somebody that you can control. And you want to control. It's different. You want that kind of destabilization. We want to have, like Sid, I don't go around saying I'm going to be king of the castle, and that's what basically somebody who's going to be controlling or try to be controlled is going to be like. They're going to say, well, there's nobody else left for you, buddy. And then it's like, well, that's done. I'm not treating you that way. You have to make a choice. It's not about, being in this relationship because you're forced in it. If I wanted to be forceful, I probably would have been in a relationship by now, and I probably would have been long lasting. Because that would be my attitude towards it. But I'm not that type of person, because to me that's not a relationship, that's owning property. To me, you have to want to be here. Meaning that you have to want to be here for the rest of your life. And not feel like, well, his family's in control of everything. My grandma wants to be in control of everything. And my grandma wants the influence of who's going to be in. Well, take for example what's happening right now with the wedding. My grandma says so much about like, oh, well, my brother's only inviting a lot of Danielle's friends and stuff. But the thing is, it's his friends too. They've had a big influence on him too. On their own. So if my grandma's going to base it off of who she knows and say, well, those people should be invited, it's actually, I don't know most of those people. Well, it's not about you. This isn't your wedding. And that's where a lot of people, and I'm talking frugally with anything. That's what a lot of people will do at any moment. That's what I'm talking about with this girlfriends thing. When a girlfriends for girls can be a bad influence. Not only that, but they try to create their future. So it's a bad future for the girls at times, because they try to tell you, hey, this is the kind of thing you should do for your wedding, this is the kind of thing you should do for this, this is the kind of thing you should do for this, and they keep on feeding you all these things. But the thing is, that's no matter how much people say they're a follower, at some point they're not going to feel okay with that person anymore. And that's the whole point of what most I see from this world, or from the relationships I've seen in this world. It's all jealousy. Jealousy is an easy pinpoint of what somebody can suppose to be as a strong relationship. That guy's really jealous. He must love her. Well, why is that? He controls her, so he must love her? Oh, well, this is perfect. There you go. But it's not. That's what a lot of people assume, because it's like, you got to be the strong wall. No, everyone has to have their own wall, There's a way to be very open to people and still have that wall. I'm doing it every day. I'm not building that wall on purpose. It's because I honestly only want to be with one person. I've seen the mistakes that other people make, and anybody can say all they want about the kind of personality I have, but I don't have that. Anybody can say like, oh, I'm like Charlie Sheen completely, which I'm not. I look back at anybody that I've looked at and, had admiration for in any way, in any form. And it's not intimidation, it's that I see that they're honest about it. And they're not trying to deny anything. They're just telling you the truth, and they want to face it. They want you to face it too, without believing little snippets here and there that are given. So when I'm trying to make an impression on you, it's not because I'm trying to tell you, hey, this is what you got to believe. I just want you to know the truth, So that finally, as the old story goes, the teeter-totter. I'm on one side of the teeter-totter, high up in the air. The other side's full with lies. That's what the world is. And I'm trying to push down the teeter-totter. It's going to take a long time, but, I can't go with fear. And it's not about, you got to have a good heart, just heart. Oh, you can't go with your heart all the time. You got to work, too. Yeah, I do. I do work. But I feel fulfilled with the work that I do. Just as much as I feel fulfilled if I was doing only my passion with my writing. I feel just at home with everything else that I've chosen. Because there were certain jobs that I could have had, but I felt like, this isn't the kind of work I want. Like the gas station. where they were sarcastic. And it wasn't that sarcasm where it's like, oh, this is fun to come to work every day. And I felt that in the interview. This isn't fun. These guys are assholes. And they're like the asshole punks that you met in high school at times. So I said, no thanks. I don't want to be friends with these people. I don't want to, work with these kind of people, because if I wanted those kind of jokes thrust at me, I could have added these people in my life a long time ago. Back in high school when I had the opportunity so many times. But I didn't, because I feel like, not because I want to be alone, I want to be alone, I can't deal with anybody making fun of me. No, of course, you can make fun of me. But if you're doing it to leave a bad impression, or say, oh, I know what kind of person you are, show that kind of first impression that you supposedly have of me, then right there you lose me. Because it's like, I'm not there to make you feel like a ticking time bomb or feel worse than me. If I'm acting like myself, it means I'm acting like myself. That's it. I'm not doing it for your amusement. I'm doing it because I am. Now, if it amuses you, that's good. That's a good impression, because that means I'm trying to joke the old school way. I'm not using sarcasm or cynicism or being intractable to try to be somebody else. I'm actually using my own personality and accepting humans in general without that apathy, without that, without trying to just say, oh, well, I don't need you around here. If it is just like a lug nut or a number, then you don't really need somebody around. You don't need somebody working for you then, because there is some truth to say that they're probably, and I mean this with true heart, that for me personally, that's why the whole girlfriends thing, yeah, they can be a bad influence at times, because they can tell that girl about you and say so many things, give an impression based on the first time they saw you, and that's it, and then you lose them forever. Like for me, I'm glad that some friendships ended, because I felt that. And I felt that impression from the friendships, that they believed they're friends. And I was like, well, this is sort of a pointless friendship, because they trusted me and then they didn't. Then they don't need me around. There's that loss of the trust, but the thing is, that's not the worst part. The worst part is, they took what their friend said about me as a first impression and said that must be so true. I mean, it goes back to astrology and seeing those general statements on what somebody's horoscope is, or what somebody's character is as a Cancer, Libra, whatever you want to call. If you're looking at that and looking at that alone, then you're going to make impressions of what those qualities and traits are, and say, oh, those I experienced before too, and you're going to base it off of the other person you experienced it with, not with the new one that you're talking to. And that's where this whole idea of, girlfriends can be bad influence. To me, you got to make your own impression. You got to. Whether you're a follower or somebody who isn't a follower. But if you want to hold yourself above that kind of personality, you can't just say, well, this person's right and I'm wrong. You got to keep on fighting for what you think. It doesn't mean you have to tell somebody else off. It means you just got to think for yourself. You could look at their impression and say, well, let me see if that's true. That's different. You're just trying to see. But if you try to push it on somebody and say, this is the kind of person you got to be because of what this other person said about you, and I don't like their impression, I want to fight against it, they're going to lose you, because they want you to fight against somebody that never even told you to your face. To me, that doesn't matter to me. Just as much as when I was with Christina, it didn't matter to me that her parents didn't like me or Danny didn't like me. Although he did for a certain point. He was pretty cool with me even when they were together, before all that. Before me getting with her even. So, right there and then, that's proof positive that something happened to destroy the friendship that could have been altogether with the whole group. Instead, it became like, I'm going to create a wall now. Or I'm going to say I feel like a third wheel. Well, then we're done. If you were a third wheel, I wouldn't take the time to call you. I wouldn't do all that. I wouldn't waste my time talking to a third wheel. I wouldn't even want to. I'd say, no thanks, you're not my friend. Why would I spend the time? If you want to create something in your mind, you lost me. Especially in that way, where you're telling me off about it. To me, I'm 25, I'm 26 now, but the whole thing is, I want something real. I'm sorry if I do. You know, I'm sorry if I'm not afraid to experience all the emotions and not take the easy way out. I apologize to all of you, but I'm ready. I can't be any more ready than this. Wish you the best. Constantly. Love. Love.